We're taking a quick look at the new Studio Series Core Class Bumblebee movie, Shockwave. Now, the figure is highly detailed, as you can clearly see right here. Almost every inch of this figure has been sculpted with tons of details from the movie. The color looks great. I would just wish there was a little bit more metallic hue to that purple. It's a pretty plain, bland purple. But they got the silver right, they got the head sculpt right. The only problem with it is it's tiny. That's what you expect with this new core class size of figures. I'll talk more about this new scale at the end of the video, but suffice to say, this figure has been well sculpted and well engineered. Let's begin with some size comparisons. Here is the core class Shockwave. With other core class figures, we got the Bumblebee movie Ravage. Obviously, he's not going to be in scale with him. Soundwave and Starscream and Megatron from the core class series of figures from Kingdom, Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Kingdom. And he kind of fits in with them. He's just a tad bit taller. About, if you go head to toe, about 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters taller than the other Decepticons. Definitely out of scale, and we'll talk more about that later, but suffice to say, that is the scale that they're going for with this core class figure. Somebody asked in the Bumblebee movie Soundwave review if Soundwave or Ravage was the same size as a core class Soundwave. He's definitely not. He's much smaller. He's definitely not in scale with this figure. In terms of plastic, that's probably the reason why they had to include that missile for Soundwave with this figure, because it's just so little plastic compared to either of these two, even for a core class figure. Before we begin the video, I wanted to address a few issues since we're already addressing some questions from the previous video. The Bumblebee movie Soundwave. There is a way to hide the head sculpt. If you rotate the shoulders enough, the panels will cover the head sculpt. My bad for not showing this in my review of this figure. I have no excuse. I was just being very lousy that day, but there is a way to cover him up. Now, somebody had mentioned that this could be a drop ship. I think that's a wonderful idea. He could fly over and then he could open up and drop Ravage. I had questions if the cockpit would fit the Titan's Return or Titan Master Headmaster figures. Yep, it will fit 2 of these figures. And Soundwave, I guess, could drop them in battle like that. So a dropship would work. Just not sure how convincing it would be, but I'm pretty sold with it. Now, a lot of people have been hating on this alt mode, this paperweight alt mode. After a while playing with this figure, this alt mode kind of has grown on me. It definitely has grown on me for some reason. I don't know why, but you know those things that you look at it one too many times, it's so ugly that you keep looking at it, it becomes nice. It actually becomes very nice and cute, and I don't know how to explain it, but this paperweight alt mode has definitely grown on me. Somebody was asking if the Coronation Starscream crown will fit the head of a Siege Starscream. Now, I don't have my Siege Starscream anymore. I do have a Shattered Glass Starscream, which uses the same mold. And yeah, but no. It will sit on the head of the figure, but it won't stay there. The sculpt of the Siege Seeker head is just too different. It's just too boxy for this crown to actually just tab into it. Even if you force it down, it's not going to stay in there. If you're not going to move the figure, if it's just going to be on the shelf, I guess you could just let it sit right there and it would be okay, but I wouldn't advise it. You'd probably end up just losing it. So that's that for updates. Let's move on to the main figure for review. And this is the core class Shockwave. You can clearly see he's got a blaster right here, which you can put on either hand, but traditionally Shockwave's left hand is the blaster hand. So that's what it does. Doesn't do much, just folds up the peg right here for alt mode. It's well detailed. It's well sculpted, if I may add. Lots of paint on it. Very nice. Okay. Articulation for this figure. The neck can swivel. It's not on a ball joint. It swivels because of transformation, I suppose. They need it to swivel for alt mode. There is no waist swivel. Shoulders are on ball joints. There's a double hinge right here, a forearm hinge, as well as a bicep hinge. Okay, then you've got a hinge elbow that bends backwards and forwards. And then you got ball jointed hips, go this way, this way. Then there's an extra hinge right here for transformation on the thighs. No thigh swivel though. The knees are on a hinge that bend just under 90 degrees. The feet are on hinges because of transformation. Let's get him into his alt mode, Cybertronian tank mode. First thing you want to do, you want to unpeg that torso. I'm going to just move it all the way down here to his crotch. And then this whole shoulder section is going to fold this way and tab in. You want to rotate that head to make him face the other way. And that peg hole right there at the back of his head is going to fit this gun. We'll talk about that later. Okay, and then what you want to do is you want to bend his elbows and rotate that forearm and tab it onto the back of the bicep. So let's do the same on the other side. Oh, bend and rotate. And then tab onto the back of the bicep. And that will form the rear wheels, okay? Now onto the front wheels or the legs. What you want to do is you want to bend the hinge at the thigh like that. And the shoulders are going to tab onto those pegs, that tiny peg right there on the top of the thighs like that, just to secure the legs. You want to go ahead and fold down the feet like that. That will form the front part of the Thunder Tank, the Cybertronian Shockwave Thunder Tank. Thunder, thunder, thun. Okay, sorry. And then there are tiny pegs right there on the side of the chest. They're going to peg onto the insides of the thighs. And then finally, to finish it off, fold down that abdomen piece and lock it in place. And that's the base of the tank. Now, this is the most difficult part. You need to, the hinge just loves to move back. So you need to find a way to squeeze that peg at the back of his head. And you do it this way. You put it at an angle. Don't put it this way. It's just going to fold. Put it at an angle and then just wiggle it in like that. Don't put it all the way in because it is a huge pain just to remove that gun from that head. I don't know why they even thought of this. So suffice to say, this is the official alt mode. Doesn't roll. There's no wheels. The turret can go up and down and rotate left and right because of that head articulation. It's great. It's a nice little Thunder Tank or Cybertronian Shockwave tank. I actually thought you could turn these into a walking tank, but you can't. Maybe you could if you wanted to. Do it this way. And then he could be that walking tank that we've seen in most of the animated shows. But this is how the tank should be. Some final thoughts on this new core class Bumblebee movie, Shockwave. Okay, here we go. It's a good figure if you're just looking at the figure per se. But to be quite honest, I think it's a waste of effort and budget, and quite frankly, it's a waste of money to buy this figure because, first of all, the reason they made the Studio Series line was so they could redo all the movie figures and put them all in scale, give them amazing detail. They're going to invest in fantastic sculpts to give you accurate looking figures that are going to be in scale with each other. That was the whole point of the Studio Series line. So every figure they dish out and release should be in scale with every single other figure that they have in the line. Hence, a class such as the core class should be reserved for figures that are small in scale compared to the other giant figures like Ravage, like the other minions, perhaps Laserbeak, maybe even Brain, a more articulated and transformable Brain and Wheelie. We could do Scorponok. This was Hasbro's opportunity to release figures that are smaller than the other Transformers from the Bayverse and Travis Knight universe in the core class line without having them as accessories for the bigger figures. And what do? They come up and go back to that old Cyberverse line, the Transformers Prime? Was it Transformers Prime Cyberverse line, where they made legend scaled figures of their current figures? Because let's be honest, somewhere down the line, maybe next year, I'm pretty sure Hasbro is going to give us a Voyager class or a Leader class sized Bumblebee movie Shockwave figure. So what's the point of having a small figure? The way I saw it, the core class figures, or the core class subline of the Generations line, was really Hasbro's response to third-party companies coming up with their own legend-scaled G1-styled figures. Hasbro got insecure. They felt they should own the market for all scales of Transformers, and as such, they came up with the core class figures in the Kingdom line, and you have the Autobots and these Decepticons. You can clearly see they're G1 inspired. They've got nothing to do with the mythology of the War for Cybertron trilogy. And I thought that was well and good. So when they announced Shockwave for the core class line, I was completely expecting a G1 styled Shockwave, which will have nothing to do with the movieverse. That's all well and good. You can put that in as a Studio Series 86, or if you want some difference with that figure, if you want to differentiate that figure from the other Studio Series line, I think they should have made it a Studio Series 86 core class Shockwave. That would have been great, but no. Hasbro is desperately trying to milk collectors and fans their money by giving them useless figures. It's great by all means. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's beautifully done, but it is absolutely useless because they're going to come up with a bigger figure. They should have used this opportunity to maybe come up with a Scorponok figure, maybe a Laserbeak figure together with Ravage, because I'm okay to pay core class price for a minion, or maybe a 2-pack of a minion to complete Soundwave's minions. I mean, stuff like that, those are the things you think about before doing smaller figures. The figure itself should get, in my opinion, an 8 out of 10. But because I thought it was useless, I'm going to bump it down to a 6 out of 10 out of frustration. But in terms of aesthetics, engineering, sculpt, and all that, it should be an 8 out of 10. Anyway, let me know in the comment section what you think of this new Studio Series core class Bumblebee movie Shockwave. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.